Welcome to Mischief Maker episode 2. I can't believe there is an episode 2. I'm so absolutely flabbergasted. I have no words for how amazing our crafting community is. I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribed to my YouTube channel and to this podcast and found me over on Ravelry. And a big, huge thank you to the grocery girls who mentioned me on their last podcast. I may have jumped up and down a little bit, just a little. But I can't believe I did not know they were going to do that. It was super exciting and I was super flattered. I've received so many comments and beautiful messages. I have read every one. I just don't even know what to say. So I'm so excited that you guys want to be here with me. This is super, super exciting. And let's get into it. All right. So first, grab a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever you're drinking. Right now I'm drinking coffee. Today is fueled by coffee. My favorite right now, coffee, is Kicking Horse coffee. It's made in the Rocky Mountains, and this is my favorite one of them. They have several flavors, but it's a dark coffee. It's the 454 horsepower. Super good. With just a little cream. All right, so lots to talk about today. Okay, so I have who am I again? If you're new, welcome. Everyone's new. I mean, this is my second episode. So you're all new. But my name is Jade Prosser, and on Ravelry you can find me at Stitch Mischief. On Instagram I'm also Stitch Mischief. And I have a Ravelry group going on. Called Mischief Maker Podcast. So I'd love it if you could come over and say hi and chat with us. I'm really new to the whole Ravelry group scene, so feel free to tell me if I'm majorly missing something. Lots to talk about this episode. I have some plans for a giveaway for the end of the episode. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So for finished objects, I have a couple, not a ton. Since I'm doing this in weekly increments, there won't be as many finished objects every week because mom first and everything else second. So this past weekend, we had the privilege of celebrating my oldest, Dash's grade 7 graduation and his cousin's as well. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say her name, so I'm not going to. Her graduation as well. And I didn't know what to make. I knew what to give Dash because he's really easy. He's a boy. He's video games and Steam gift card done. But for her, she's crafty and adorable, and they're both 12. And I wanted to make her something that was handmade and personal and something, that she might enjoy and think was cute. So I don't have it because I gave it to her already, but I'm going to put in some pictures. So I made this, so I'll just talk over and you'll be looking at pictures. So I made this Finch Bucket. It didn't start out as a Finch Bucket, funnily enough. It started out as a Twiggy pouch I was thinking to make. But as I made the 2 penguins, so I used Elizabeth Hartman's pattern for the penguin party, and I made the shortest penguin size. And so it has a million pieces. I highly doubt these will ever be a shop thing because there's so much work. But so I made 2 little penguins in the short size. But as I was looking at the dimensions, I realized that there's no way this is going to fit on a Twiggy pouch, even as big as they are. So I thought Finch Bucket. So they were a little off center. Next time I'll be a little more careful about centering them. I hear a baby. And so they were just about the perfect size to fit on the front and back of a Finch Bucket. And I love making this. This took cute to a whole new level. It's adorable. I think I have to make another one for me and maybe Skylar too. But so that was a finished object. She loved it. I loved it. Instagram loved it. It was just crazy how much love it got. But the penguins, it's all about the penguins and little noses and little gingham and buffalo check going on. So that was one finished object. And I do have a finished object in socks, but I'm going to share that later. Okay, so talking about whips. I have made some progress on my Veronica, not enough to share, but I've also done the same deal with my entrelac mitts. I'm almost to the entrelac part, which is scaring me quite a bit actually, I'm not gonna lie. And I think, actually maybe I will share, I think I'm possibly using the wrong size needle for my second mitt, but I kind of don't care. So it's a little bit looser of a gauge, but I also knit differently than I did back then. So this is a 10-year-old project probably. So that's okay. I'll let it slide. So that's going on. So that's one whip. Oops. And my other one that I've made some big progress on is my bobble shawl. So when I showed you this last week, I only had a little bit of the striping done. I hadn't made it to the brioche yet. So this is, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I can focus on it. Sorry. Okay, so the other thing is I chose not to film with my phone. Let's see if I can focus on the shawl here. No, that's not super great. Anyways, brioche. We are at the brioche. I love doing brioche. And I realized after I was editing last week's podcast that I didn't even show you the third color because I was a little excited to be filming a podcast. So this is the mint. So it's kind of a light mint that will go in and tie in with the speckles and the red all together. Should make for a fun project in the end. So that's moving along. I'm almost done. A couple more repeats of the brioche before I move into the lace, which I love, which will be in the speckled cream color. And what else do I have? Socks. Oh, okay. So I was thinking about whips today, and I've started going through my whips for a while now. For a couple of years, every now and then I pare them down. And do I still love this project? Is it still something that my kids would wear or fit or whatever? And the thing I realized is that I don't regret frogging. I never regret frogging, even after the fact. Like, there's just no point in finishing something that you know you will not wear. Like, styles change. And I knit once a sheep sweater for my oldest, and I never finished it. I just got the sheep done, and he's 12. Like, I've had multiple boys since then, but I just can't see myself being the mom who put the sheep sweater on the kid right now. So when I ripped that out a couple of years ago, it felt good. And I was thinking about that sweater today, and I don't regret ripping it out because I'm a process knitter. So I enjoy the process while I'm knitting. It's okay sometimes if I don't get the finished product, if that makes sense. So yeah, so those are my whips. Oh, I've never showed you because it's also one of my newer whips, but prior to my making a mental log and counting all my whips. So this is the Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mowry. I'm not sure how close you can see it. So I dyed this up. I haven't shown it a ton for two reasons. One, because it's not growing right now. And the other is because I had a really hard time sourcing the mohair, the kid mohair, to dye. And it's only just become available again. So I didn't want to show it and be like, hey, look, I dyed this, and no, you can't have any. So it's in future plans to order some. But I love how, I don't even know what the word is, effervescent, flowy and happy and beautiful the colors are together. So this is like my Anna colorway without the pink over dye in the beginning. If that makes sense. Can you see that? And you cannot, sort of, maybe. Anyways, I just want to quickly say, okay, so I'm not filming with my phone today after all my technical difficulties last week. And I'm not 100% sold that this DSLR setup is going to be the way I stay, but I can attach a mic with this, which helps, and I haven't figured out how to do close-ups and focusing without hearing of the autofocus. I don't think we're hearing that today. The lens isn't moving, so I think it should be quiet. But I did have someone ask me from Germany, I forget your first name again, but how I film my podcast. I totally think it's fine to do it with your phone. I did it with my phone last week and it went fine. Like, maybe not as perfect quality or what have you, considering you're filming with the front of your phone, which is the worst lens on your phone. So theoretically, I could have filmed it the other way, but I wouldn't have known if I was still like in the picture and all that stuff. So today I am using my DSLR camera and we're testing it out. So yeah, so there's more possibilities when you're filming with this, but I would love to know if you notice a difference, if you prefer one to the other. I do not like that I can't zoom in very well, which is kind of annoying, but well, whatever. You can't have everything. So, all right, so I did it again. For my knitting all the socks part of our podcast, I have made some good progress, and I wish I had planned ahead a little bit better and been a little more organized because I asked a kid to get the other one of these out and I do not know where it ended up. So it's out, and this, here we go. This is my second sock for the Coffee Talk socks for Tracy Miller of the Grocery Girls. So this is coming out soon. It's knit in Shine and Bellini. Bellini's the bright coral. And yeah, so these are moving along. These are very, very fast to knit and I love them. So I can't wait till they're done. I did something different with them. I usually do an alternate cable cast on for ribbing. And when I cast on it's a 2x2 rib. When I cast on my first one, I just thought that I could just do, like, if I'm doing an alternate cable knitting, you do like purl, purl, knit, knit, or purl, knit, purl, knit. So I thought if you had a 2x2 ribbon, you could just do that. Just do what equates to purl, purl, knit, knit. You can't. I didn't know that. So it doesn't actually work that way. So I had to Google, I found a nice tutorial online on how to do the 2x2 alternate cable cast on with, I mean, it's not necessary, but I like the stretch it gives and then the kind of clean edge with, you kind of have to sort of skip a stitch and leave a stitch live and then come back and pick it up. It's kind of a tricky thing, but it's not hard to do once you get into the swing of it. So I did that for the second one, and in the end, I'm going to compare the two edges because I like a tidy edge on my socks. So that is moving along. And am I finished? This is why I wanted the other sock blocker, but I forgot. So I have my two finished self-striping socks. They're a little bit blown out here, but this is the Be Mine colorway from Mustache Yarn. And I did fuchsia heels toes, and I love them. They're done, ready for winter, and they're just so happy. I know at some point it's going to be dreary and I'll be wishing for winter quite desperately. So this will be nice to have. Not wishing for winter, wishing for summer. I always wish for the season it's not, which is ridiculous. So those are finished, and I made a little progress on my Love is a Battlefield sock, but not worth showing. So yeah, so that's my socks section. So on the Grocery Girls podcast, their most recent episode, it was episode 61. So they're doing Stock Talk this month, and they're doing commercial yarns. And I was thinking about doing one of my Felici yarns. So I'm not sure. I thought I'd throw this out there. Should I continue with my whips, or should I cast on some Felici yarns and use up some stash yarn? That's my big decision. I have maybe 4 or 5 different self-striping from Felici Knit Picks yarns, and I totally think I might be butchering the word Felici. So sorry about that. I also indulged in a little bit of pattern piggery this week. I don't know why I'm suddenly in the mood to knit all the sweaters. But two people came out with new sweaters patterns, and I bought two that are like classics in the sweater world. So yeah, so 4 new patterns and 1 shawl pattern. So when I can't add to my whip collection, apparently I add to my pattern collection. So one pattern I'm super excited about. I bought it sort of thinking it was released, but I actually bought the pre-order. I didn't know we did that for Ravelry, but it was a pre-order, and it's from Libby Johnson. She's from Australia, I believe. And this, or Truly Myrtle Photos on Instagram. So this is her floozy sweater. Absolutely love the name. Floozy sweater. It's super funny. And it's a beautiful pattern, and apparently the color work in here is done by slip stitches, so it's not technically stranded color work. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I almost cast on a new project because my will was little. And that's for my doorbell. My will was nothing, and oh, it's my yarn. Just a second. Very exciting. I love yarn delivery day. It's a happy thing. So this sweater, it was almost a whip. I bought it, stash stove, and had the perfect yarn waiting, and swatched immediately. Flipped to the next page, ready to start my sweater, and there was no pattern. So I'm like, what do you mean there's no pattern? August 17th. So maybe if I finish my Veronica before then, I can guilt-free cast on a new sweater. So this is, pardon the noise, this is the yarn that I'm using. I normally keep the bands inside my cakes, but I seem to have lost them. I think it's a heritage something. Heritage. I don't know. I've had these for a few years. I bought them from 88 Stitches a long time ago. And it's like a, trying to see, yeah, it's reading pretty clear. It's like a tealy green with blue in it. So that'll be the main color. I don't know if you can see that. And then for the darker color work, I'm going to use this, and all the names have gone out of my head. This Hedgehog Fibres that I bought up in Kelowna on a visit to Sasha, Naughty by Knitcher, one year. So I bought this at a store up there, and it's kind of a charcoal gray with bits of mustard and purple and teal in it. So that'll be the dark. And then for my light, I have my leftover Anna socks. So Anna sock yarn. Anna sock yarn. And that's kind of a fun, it has neon green and teal and pink and all over on a pink base, which is kind of hard to see, but one day I'll do close-ups properly. So that is my future floozy sweater. So I can't wait for the pattern to come out. August 17th, which gives me a little bit of a deadline for finishing Veronica, and then I think I can do it guilt-free, right? So very excited about that. And then another pattern that I bought, I don't have the picture of it because if I printed the front page, it would give you the pattern, so I don't want to do that, but it's called Seclude by Alicia Plummer. It's beautiful. I really like the lines in it and the neckline, and it just seems like a perfect kind of camping sort of sweater. Really nice fitted sweater. And lastly, I bought the 2 boxy patterns by Hohi Locatelli. I apologize if I'm saying the name wrong. The boxy with the V-neck, both in fingering weight, the V-neck one and the rounded neck. And I think that they're just going to be a really good wardrobe staple once I make them, because they're sort of flattering, and it doesn't matter where I am size-wise. I think they'll fit in a sort of flattering way, which is exciting. So those are future dream dream knitting plans. Okay, so yeah, so that's coming. I made notes because I get really excited about this and then I start to not think and I just get all like, I'm filming a podcast, but I'm trying to pretend we're just, sitting having tea and it's just chill. No big deal. Somebody asked me I asked in Instagram if there were any questions that people had that they wanted me to answer. And so since we're still sort of in the sock category, one question was, this is by Crimson Confection, I believe, on Instagram. And the question was, what is a good beginner pattern for socks? I tend to lean towards cuff down. And I think that Susan B. Anderson's How I Knit Socks is pretty excellent for a beginner. It's like a vanilla sock, cuff, heel flap, and gusset. Really good. I really, really like that pattern. And then if you wanted to get more into a texture, once you're, pardon the children noises, once you're more used to knitting socks and the structure of it, I love her, I can never say her name right. Hermione's Everyday Socks. Pretty sure I butchered her name too. This is the day of not saying names right. But yeah, so that question was from Crimson Confection, I believe. Yes, Crimson Confection, Jennifer. And she also asked how I knew what size blocker to order for my sock blocking. Now, I don't often block socks. I just like taking photos with block socks simply because they stretch out on my feet as it is, and I don't like loose socks. But I love the look of when you're showing a finished object of having a sock blocker. So I bought this one set, if I ever find my other one, from Crazy Monkey. Oh, there it is. Crazy Monkey Designs on Etsy, and it's lovely. It's wood. They ask your size. So I'm a size 9 US, and it is made to fit that. I don't use it to measure out when I'm knitting socks. I use it just to display. I do think that I want to get a plastic or a metal sock blocker just because I'm worried a little bit about the wood. I've done some sanding on it, but the wood has a little bit of rough bits and I'm worried that it's snagging my socks a little bit. I did have one pair of socks that I blocked it and I pulled them off and suddenly had a hole, but I didn't know what it was until maybe later. And so that was kind of horrifying. So I'm really, really careful when I put them on and off. But yeah, wooden blockers, super cute, Crazy Monkey Creations. Yeah, so that socks. So I'm curious to hear if you guys say stick with your whips or cast on some Felici socks. So today is the day of packages. That was my mail or my yarn that just got delivered. So exciting to get a fresh box of yarn. I also had in the mail today. So I've been watching Hoagie's podcasts. From the beginning, I tend to like going to the beginning of things because I find you get a better sense of who a person is and what they're like and what's the deal on the podcast and how everything's going to go. And she recommended getting these, at least the first 2 in this series of the Knitting Treasury books. So this literally landed in my hands right before I sat down to film. So I haven't even had a chance to look at it, but it's A Treasury of Knitting Patterns by Barbara Walker. And I found this online, secondhand, from Goodwill in California. And it shipped in pretty record time to Canada for very little. $2, $3 shipping. Insane for a book this size. So I'm really excited. I've dabbled a little bit in sock design and knitting pattern design. I have one sock pattern out there, but I really would like to eventually have a little bit of sock pattern or even pattern design playing ability. And I think a treasury like this would be super useful, which is what Hoagie mentioned. So yeah, so I got that today. Super excited to look through that later. So this brings me to what's on my table. So last week, let's see if I can turn you. little bit. Yes. Last week I showed you a big flat stack of bags that I had made, and these are them finished. So I finished up 11 bags. It's not nearly enough what I need to be doing for Knit City, but it's progress. Progress is good. These are my classic totes. I don't know if you can see very well. The classic size. They don't have a wristlet. They're simple. They open really big. I don't like bags that pinch at the top. I find them frustrating when I'm trying to get something in and out of a bag and it's kind of closed on one end. So I really like this way which has the open end. And I'm getting a little notice that my camera's about to die. So give me 1 second. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so you know that thing where you film for like 3 minutes and you didn't press film on the camera? I did that. It's awesome. Okay, let's restart. These are the bags I'm making, or that I started making last week, and the bulk of them will be for Knit City, and I'll pop a few in the shop because I promise I'll try and keep a ratio of bags for my shop and bags for Knit City. So it also occurred to me that you don't know maybe what Knit City is. So here in Vancouver, and I forgot to say this earlier, I'm from Vancouver, Canada, in BC. So yeah, hey. So Knit City is a huge exhibition that happens. I forget how many years it's been going on. I've been to every single year. I think I've been since my daughter was little. So maybe it's 7 years, I'm not sure. But every year I've been there. And it has grown from something small in the Croatian Cultural Center to an enormous exhibition at the Peony Fairgrounds in Vancouver. And it grows every year. There's more and more vendors and more people coming to teach classes. And it's huge. It's like a little knitter's paradise. It's so nice. So this year I am a vendor. So I'm super, super excited. Also super terrified that I won't get anything done beforehand because I tend to get a little bit in my head about stuff. And when I get really stressed out, I sort of shut down sometimes. And then I can't do anything about the thing I need to do. When really you just need to do it. Just get it done. But so I had to talk to myself and like get it out of my head and say, okay, so best case scenario, I make all the things I wanted to make, bags, yarn for Knit City, and I'll be ready and everything will be great and perfect. Best case. Worst case scenario, life happens and I make less than I wanted and maybe I sell out or maybe I sell nothing. That's the other worst case scenario. Maybe I don't make back my booth, who knows. But worst case scenario, I sell out. Looking at the bright side, that just means I get to sit and knit and chat with people for 2 days if that happens. So I really don't want that to happen. I want to actually be prepared, but I need to make it not so stressful in my brain so that I don't shut down. So that is where my head's at with that. So I'll pop some of these bags into the shop. I haven't decided which ones yet, but I know for sure there'll be one of these little Japanese fabric bags. And I am just going to fix the focus here. Still working on this camera thing. Yeah, so I really like this fabric. It's an Alexander Henry print. Somebody asked on Instagram last night and I was like, I can't remember, but I think it's Alexander Henry, and I am so sorry if you can hear my children hollering in the other room. I'm sorry, but this is life with kids, right? Okay, so that was what's on my table. Oh, I won't be doing much quilting until after Knit City because in all honesty, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be focusing on bags and dyeing yarn and school. Oh my goodness. It's like a zoo out there. I am so sorry. I'm not going to edit it out because it is what it is. So I do have, way back last year, I made a quilt for a friend and I had simultaneously cut out a bunch of squares for me to have for another project. And They were just sitting in a baggie in my closet cupboard. And so what I did is my kids wanted to help me out and do something crafty for me. So they asked what they could do, and I realized I could get them to sew the lines on the backs of my squares to make half square triangles. So this is chain piecing. But they happily sat down. It's literally the most boring job of making half square triangles. I hate it personally, but they loved it. So yay, mom moment. So they drew all the lines, and then I just periodically grab a little stack while I'm making bags and just run them through the machine. And I'm getting quite the collection of squares getting sewed together and ready to be cut and trimmed and made. So that's all I'm gonna have on my table that is quilting related, because that's absolutely all I can fit right now in my schedule, because September's coming, and that is going to be insane, September. So I did a little, I wanted to ask you guys something. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know I have 4 kids and 1 daughter. Oh, 4 kids, not 4 kids plus a daughter. And she is a total mini me. She is 100% crafty. We like all the same things to the point where we drive each other nuts. And somebody said, she should come onto your podcast. And I was like, I'm toying with the idea. She quilts, she felts, she does embroidery, she bakes like a pro. I don't have to bake anymore. Yay! I love baking, but I'm more than happy to share this task. She knits. She's making some great progress on her knitting. She's dyed yarn with me. Carefully, we use all the precautions, masks and gloves and things. She sews. She does it all. She's 10 years old. And I thought about bringing her on, but I'm worried. I don't want it to seem like I'm commercializing on my daughter, because I'm absolutely not. I'm just so stinking grateful to have a daughter that's like me, that we get each other and we like to make together. So that's been so nice to have her in my life like that. But I'm not sure if sharing her on YouTube is a good idea. So I thought I'd throw that out there and see what you guys' thoughts were. If I could do a little tiny Skylar segment where she can show you her projects and what she's working on. So that's just throwing that out there. I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. So either in my Ravelry group or on the comments beneath this video. Feel free to let me know what you think. So I have a question and answer segment. So I pulled Instagram really fast yesterday to see if you had any questions, because I did this last week and then I lost the questions except for 3. So I know that there's some that I'm missing. But one question someone had, I'm just gonna go see that everyone's okay. Just give me a second. I am so sorry about the noise. I had to go do a diaper change. Yay, motherhood. Okay, so one of the questions that I received was, I mentioned a tiny bit last podcast about how we homeschool. So we haven't always done this. My children started out school in French immersion, my older 2, and I worked full time. And I think I quit my job back three falls ago, so 3 years ago, right after I miscarried. And so I quit my job, and it just happened to coincide that my oldest was having some issues with school in French immersion, and I pulled him out. So I decided I'm going to be home with my babies, because I also had what was he? He was 18 months, my 3rd at the time. No, he might have been, 18 to almost 2 years old. Maybe older. Anyways, so I pulled out my oldest and left my daughter in French immersion because she was doing okay. And then we ended up, so he went from just passing in some things to straight A's immediately that year. And then my daughter joined us the next year after we had moved, and it made more sense that we just kept it all together. We had done a little simplifying in our life, which was good. But yeah, so we moved, and homeschooling is our thing right now. I'm not saying it's the only thing, and it may not be the only thing we ever do, but I prefer it right now. And I think the kids prefer it, despite the fact that we all drive each other a little bit batty sometimes, but that's okay. We love each other, and it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. The benefits outweigh the input, if that makes sense. So the question was, do we have a dedicated homeschooling space? And the answer is yes. So I'm actually sitting, so this room here, you're just seeing a corner of it. This is my crafting spot, and right here on this side, I'm not going to show you because my kids need to organize and stuff, their desks, is my husband's non-work desk. So he works from home about 3 days a week, but he has a separate setup for that because he's frequently in meetings and phone calls and conference calls and stuff. So he needs to kind of be off a little bit in the less central zone of our house. So this whole room is right off our kitchen. So kitchen, dining room. In a normal classic layout of a house, it would be called a family room. But there was no way I was making 2 living spaces without this being fully used. Since it's a slightly small house for a family of 6. So we need to use every spot that we have to the max. So I have my husband's desk right there. So printer, I also use the computer there. And then over a bit more forward, I have 2 desks and chairs and like drawers and stuff, and computers for my oldest 2. And then over here, I have a small antique, he has lungs, I'm sorry. I have a small antique kid's desk, like from the 1950s, I think. And so my 3rd child will be starting school this year. So this year I'm going to have a grade 8er. So 8th grade, 5th grade, and kindergarten. So that's the one that's going to throw me for a loop. This is why September is going to be insane. On top of Knit City Prep, I am going to have to teach kindergarten to a child, and I haven't taught kindergarten before. So that'll be interesting. So his desk's here. He also uses sometimes my husband's desk for the computer. And then on the other side of that, I have my 2 overchairs, or armchairs. So frequently when they're doing schoolwork, I'll monitor and I'll sit and knit, or I'll sew, and we're just all together all the time. So this is our most used space, which makes it our most cluttered space, and kids have so much stuff. I have so much stuff. So yeah, so this is our flex room, we call it. It also has a fireplace, so in the winter it's quite nice because it has so many windows, to have a fireplace for a little extra coziness and heat. And there goes a box of blocks. I'm so sorry for all the extra noise. I guess I should just stop apologizing for it. It's just how it is. Okay, so another question. So that's homeschooling. That's where we're at. So I have a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So this is why I have so much noise going on out there. He's 18 months and he is just a little tank that loves to make noise and use his voice and be heard in a family of 4 children. So the other question I was asked is, what size needles do I use most? So for socks, definitely I use size 2. I was going to look up what the US sizes of this are, but I don't actually use them in my brain, so I don't know. I know the socks one. It's US size 0 and size 1. In Canadian or metric, it's 2 millimeter and 2.25 millimeter. Those are my standard sock yarns. It just depends on the pattern and the yarn and the gauge and all that. Otherwise, my favorite needles are, or my most frequently used needles are 3 millimeter, 3.25 millimeter, 3.5, 3.75 for sometimes a little bit bigger for shawls and sweaters. But if you're a new knitter and you're wanting to set up having some yarns or some needles, I don't recommend going out and buying a bunch of needles, because you might discover that, I just thought of this, you might discover you like one brand of needles more than others. So I would just buy what you need as you need it. And And you might find you prefer different lengths for different things. So I tend to err on the side of longer than smaller because I frequently use a longer needle to magic loop instead of getting a small circular to say knit a hat. I'll just take a long one, fold it in half, and it's a magic loop. So don't go crazy in the needle buying department unless you happen to have the spare money for it. I had a lot of needles that I bought. I wish I hadn't bought so many in a less, not my favorite brand, like Arrow and that kind of thing, where they're kind of hard and the stiff and the cable is not flexible. My very, very favorite needles is Chiaogu. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, another name I butchered today. Great. Chiaogu needles, and they have the red cable and they're so beautiful to knit with. I love them. I also use Addy a little bit, but Chiaogu is my favorite. Another question somebody asked was, what do I do when I lose my creativity? So for me, there's almost always a reason if I lose my creativity. So when I'm pregnant, and I've been pregnant 7 times, and the last 4 pregnancies, I would say 4, yeah, I completely lost the will to create. I had to force myself. And even then it literally physically made me ill. If I thought about sewing or knitting, I would get a little queasy, like morning sick. So that was kind of a horrible time because I really, really wanted to make stuff. But part of it was in my head because I had deadlines and I had commitments, and it became huge in my head. When I was pregnant, that was kind of, I really actually worried that it may never come back when I was pregnant. But the minute I had my babies, I lost 3 in there. The minute I had my baby, my final pregnancy, back to normal, had my energy levels back. So that was awesome that it came back. Yay. So if it's a matter of you're looking for inspiration or you're kind of just like, meh, I don't feel inspired to do anything, I highly recommend, depending on what you do, if it's knitting or sewing or quilting, Instagram. I always come away from Instagram, or almost always, inspired by something someone made, or a fabric combination, or yarn, or a sweater. And everyone's always coming up with these beautiful patterns lately that I just want to knit everything and make everything, which is why I'm in this giant pile of whips, which I'm fighting my way out of. So if you need motivation to get moving on something, so maybe you don't have anything going, but maybe you have a bunch of whips. Sometimes writing lists really works. Confiding in a craftily responsible person, Tanya, that you're kind of stuck and you don't know what to do to move forward, and basically hopefully they'll direct you, or I can direct you. Just start on the thing, like get out of your head, don't think about it, just start. And sometimes that will really just move you along to getting things done. I also find cleaning my space super, super helpful, organizing, in terms of being like, okay, clear table, clear head, I can just go, I can make things now. Whereas if I'm piles of clutter piling up everywhere, I don't really feel like doing anything because it seems so overwhelming. So yeah, and also a good thing to do is rotate your projects. This is why I have many whips. I'm not even touching how many quilting whips I have. That is a whole nother podcast, a whole nother day, maybe after Knit City. So right now it's all about the knitting whips. But rotating projects, maybe you're just tired of knitting socks, or you're tired of a shawl, or you're stuck on lace or something. So just flip to a different project or a different craft. And I also find, don't beat yourself up. Sometimes you have like seasons of crafting. Sometimes I'm more into knitting than I am into quilting, and then it'll flip. And then I'll be into quilting, or I'll be all about the dye pots, just wanting to dye everything. And that's okay. That's part of being a creative person, and that's totally normal, I think. Another question was, what fabrics am I drawn to and why? My friend Norma asked this. So bright, modern fabrics, saturated fabrics, quirky and fun fabrics, and also low volume. So low volume in quilting terms is like a white or cream print that has a print that has designs on it. But if you're far away, it kind of reads as white or cream. So I often use low volume for backgrounds in quilts. I find them very scrappy and visually interesting. I'm sometimes drawn to Liberty fabrics, but mostly just the brighter, kind of prettier colors and not the darker browns and heavy sort of prints that show up. Sometimes I like the more clear colors. I also like vintage style fabric and fabric that has like sort of old-fashioned roses and for example the new line from Bonnie and Camille, I'm in love with it. It's called Smitten. It's an appropriate name. I'm smitten. It's beautiful. Another person asked me, and I'm sorry I forgot to write down your name, what are my favorite fabric blends and interfacings for making bags, I assume. So quilting bags, I love a good quality cotton. I touched on this a little bit last week about this, and it kind of opened up a little question in our Ravelry group about what do I mean by good quality cotton. So usually that means a brand I know, by a manufacturer I know, fabric that when you know the company, you kind of have a sort of more reassurance that it's not going to bleed very easily. The fabric won't. It has a nice tight weave. It's soft. It won't fray and like dissolve as soon as you wash it, kind of thing. So by being more careful with what I buy, it can be a little bit more expensive than discount fabric, I guess you would call it, but I'll use it because I know it's worth it. So it all balances. For bag bottoms, I love linen cotton blends. Preferably Essex linen by Robert Kaufman is my absolute favorite. Their yarn dyed is gorgeous. Their yarn dyed stripes are also beautiful. They're kind of new. My goodness, I'm losing my voice. I'm sorry. And I just discovered, I was on fabric.com this week, that they have a yarn dyed Essex canvas, which is shocking. I had no idea that they had this. So anyways, I ordered a bunch of colors and I think I'm going to have a little visitor popping in here any minute. So Essex linen, generally all Robert Kaufman stuff is amazing. They also make Kona solids, which are great too. So interfacing you asked about. I'm pretty loyal to my, where is it? My Shape Flex. So I buy it's Pellon SF101, Shape Flex 101, and I buy it by the bolt. I buy probably a couple a month and use them. They are amazing interfacing. It's lightweight, it's woven, and it's not a sew-in, it irons on. But I just have had such good success with it, so that's my go-to interfacing. And then I also have a bolt, like a giant, like as big as me, bolt of fusible foam, which I also use for 1 hour baskets and haven't made that many of, which I mean to put them in the shop and I keep forgetting them. There we go. So anyways, I've rambled on for forever. I'm so sorry. But I'm so excited if you made it this far. This is awesome. So excited to be doing this. I can't believe there's even people who want to follow along on our crafting journeys. And even my husband's like, really? People want to watch you talk about crafting? Yes. Shockingly, there's some more than 10 people. I can't believe that. I really thought it would just be like family and friends and you know, worst case scenario, just a really good video blog of what I've been up to for myself, kind of like a diary. But it's doing way better than I thought it would, which is shocking to me. So thank you so much. I'm super grateful. And I wanted to plan a little giveaway for next week. So I haven't made what I want to give away yet, so I'm not going to show it to you. But if you head on over to my the Ravelry group, there will be a thread for a giveaway. So just with the rule to enter, I'm going to ask people to tell me your favorite knitted good. What's your very favorite make that you've made for yourself or somebody else? And I would love to see, I'd love to see what those are, because I'm always looking for new things, obviously, to knit, and other people might be too. So if you would like to enter my giveaway, that's the place to do it. And I'll draw a winner next week, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a bag and some yarn. So yeah, so I'd love to see you over there, and I'm going to wrap up this podcast now. And thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you next week.